Hello, my name is Kwizera. I'm the Managing Director of Water Access Rwanda, and it's my pleasure today to introduce you to my company and also the challenges and opportunities we're encountering as we try to bring water to rural areas, especially to the bottom of the pyramid. So we are a youth-led social enterprise, so we're concerned about the profit we get from our endeavors, but more importantly on the impact we're having in terms of people who get access to water through our different services. We offer many services, all mainly related to borehole drilling, pumps, filters, and also geosurvey. So it's very much looking at underground water. But also we've done anything that guarantees access to water, including even conducting wash trainings for communities. So far, we've serviced more than 100,000 people, and our work has been in Rwanda mainly, but also with some work in DRC, Uganda, and Burundi since 2014. We have won some awards, which we are proud of, but they kind of speak to the ability of young people with a strong mission to actually influence any space we go into. So one thing we realized, especially from our earlier work in 2014 and 2015, was that many donors were giving us money to offer what was the traditional solution at the time, which is you find a rural area, you give them clean water through a hand pump. It's a very cheap, affordable solution, at least that's what we thought. But what you find is that the management of hand pumps is more complicated than just giving it to a community and the wash training and creating a committee to manage the water points. As the population grows around the boreholes, there is longer and longer waiting lines. The pump breaks more often, to where you find that the community has went backwards in its water access goals. So instead of having community who are happy to see a borehole, as we were used to, you find that communities are now without access to water, such as was the case for this community in Binare. Or you find that although the borehole is being repaired, there is very long waiting lines which don't really meet the standard of water as a human right. And so what are the human rights should be sufficient, affordable, be safe, acceptable, and also accessible. And we find that sometimes hand pumps are not meeting this criteria. And I'm sure everybody on this webinar knows that water is a human right, and we can't achieve any other human right without guaranteeing humans the dignity that comes with having access to clean water. So the good news is that Africa and Rwanda and East Africa and anywhere you are right now, we're sitting on huge aquifers which are underutilized. So we mapped in Rwanda about 580 boreholes and dug wells which were not functional, and even the ones that are functional, 78% of them were equipped with hand pumps with limited yields of 20 liters per minute. So there is a big case of economic water scarcity and also a suppressed demand of clean water, where you see rural communities consuming less than 5 liters per person per day, as opposed to the WHO standard of 50 liters per person per day. So since 2017, with Partner Waterfall, we've started implementing what we call INUMA. So INUMA is a microgrid, a decentralized water infrastructure, and it usually feeds from a borehole powered by a hybrid pump, which is feeding energy from solar, wind, or also electricity from an existing AC grid, or sometimes from a backup generator, depending on how big the community is. The INUMA Nexus can produce 60 liters per minute of completely purified water, with the water having gone through sediment filters, UV, and also chlorinated for self-storage. We create microgrids with INUMA to where individuals can obtain water into their homes, not just have to come to the kiosk to buy. But more than that, we use prepaid meters as a way to manage our revenue in a more smart way, and also reduce water revenue losses, which are very common in our sector. So INUMA is currently paid for by third parties. This includes government, businesses, and grant-giving organisms like NGOs. And we do see an advantage given the current funding to keep going in the more rural areas and be able to establish systems there. The problem kind of becomes the management, because we do incur losses on some of these systems. However, we do see a willingness from businesses, from government, from NGOs to establish new infrastructure, which is great. But we do also have support from management. So for example, some businesses are wanting to be carbon neutral, so they would pay for carbon credit, which we can generate by providing clean, purified water to people. And some businesses want to advertise on our systems as a way to gain more goodwill among users. So if you're a soap seller or you sell mattresses, advertising on the side of the place where communities come every day will make a difference when they get to the market, because you're building a lot of goodwill among users and your future clients. So this, I would say, is our primary advantage. But once we start talking about receiving outside investment to establish enormous systems, or to manage boreholes so they don't break, or to establish some type of systems, we are losing money in some places, which I'm going to elaborate on, to where investment money would not make sense. And that's a deterrent for us as a business. And I think that's why most businesses would rather stay in the inner city, in the peri-urban areas, but not going to the rural areas. So as explained, we're receiving a bunch of capital from third-party payers, not from the users themselves, to establish the systems. But management, we're supposed to make our money to cover our expenses and recoup the investment from the user fees as they buy the water. So we do sign an MOU with government before we establish systems, and within the MOU we specify that we will comply with the proper tariff as set by the utility regulator, and that we're going to provide quality water up to national standards. For the systems that the government paid for, or donors to government paid for, we pay back 10% royalty to government for their management. So we do see some challenges in our ability to service the bottom of the pyramid by going the last mile. The very first challenge is that all our systems are vulnerable to rain patterns. In the rainy season, so if you look at the chart on the left, where there is the blue boxes, that would indicate the rainy season, the sales go considerably down as compared to the usual performance of the individual kiosks. But also there is a huge difference in how kiosks perform. We see that some kiosks are making upwards of 1 million, while others are actually making losses. So this is the gross net profit across our kiosks in the first quarter of 2019. The third challenge we see is that the people who reside in an area and the people who come to use your services are not good indicators of your volume sales. So in rural areas, you may get a lot of users, such as is the case in Kavumu network. So if you go to the third challenge on the graph, you'll see the third from the bottom, Kavumu network. It has many users who come at the kiosk. It also has a moderate number of residents, but the volume sold there is not too big. So that means individuals are coming but getting very little water. But if you look at Rwanda right below it, it's a very urban kiosk. So in terms of people who live there and people who come to the kiosk every day, you can see that maybe 55% of residents are coming to the kiosk every day. But when they come, they take more than 2 times the volume per person than what's happening in our rural areas. So this makes it very challenging to size your systems. We usually size systems looking at the potential number of users, but we see that the socioeconomic characteristics of the people are bigger indicators of how much volume they will consume than their numbers. The first challenge is tariffs and regulations. So right now, the current regulations fix the price of water based on the type of system and not the income of users. So, for example, a rural community is less likely to have access to grid electricity anyways. So you would be obliged in such communities to run a generator to provide them a good, consistent supply of water. And so such communities, for example, we could charge them 35 francs as opposed to the 15 francs we're charging them now. So, and then you find that because of that, you still have to charge a tariff way lower than the regulated tariff, while in your urban areas, which could be more lucrative, where people have more money to spend on water, where they need more water, your tariff is capped at a price that is said to be pro-poor. So in this case, operators like myself, like Water Access Rwanda, we're obliged to cut our own earnings in the rural areas, while we cannot, according to the tariff, increase our prices in the peri-urban or urban areas. One bigger challenge is that urban areas, which would be the more lucrative areas, allowing us to cross-subsidize our losses in the rural areas, those urban areas are reserved for only one entity in the whole country. Furthermore, the tariff is considering that private operators are running systems built by government. So this is a deterrent for enterprises like myself that want to build and operate and also be able to recover our initial investment into the systems. So, but so far we have been able to overcome some of those challenges, or at least defer their negative consequences, to where we have 21 Inuma kiosks across Rwanda. We've created 34 jobs from Inuma, and so far we have 16 people who have piped water at home through our systems. In terms of coverage, 12,675 people live within 500 meters of our kiosks. Our user numbers are a little higher than that. And in 2018, we were able to sell 9 million liters throughout the whole year, while this year we've already hit 8 million, which means we're definitely growing as compared to our 2018 performance. So as said before, after we cross-subsidize our profits and losses across all the systems, we end up with a 28% profit on the systems, and our water revenue losses are only 11.9% as compared to a national average of 40%. We do offer profit share agreements to people who may be interested to commit for 15 years into a new Inuma system, and we're seeing that this can have a return of 141% on a 15-year agreement, which that ends up being around 6% annual return. Our future milestone as a company is to connect 100 people this year in their homes, improve our individual kiosk earnings, and also implement other income-generating activities at our kiosks, which can help break even, especially in the rural areas currently losing money. We do want to upgrade many of the boreholes we've noticed in Rwanda that are non-lucrative right now or non-functional, and our target is 103 by 2020. And we want to bring our solution to other countries as well. As you can see on the map, we'd like to be in 7 other countries by 2030.